based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are 4 things that all employers should be work towards making sure that their employees meet. It's a safe and secure workspace, a responsible impact on the surrounding environment, right? Because you want to make sure that you're not poisoning your future workforce. A community supporting wage, not a living wage, but one that can actually be taxable, that can actually support the community and help it thrive. And also, my favorite one is an accountable professional relationship. We're not friends. We're not family. You're my boss. I'm an employee. Tell me what to do. I do it. We walk away.
Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the Multiverse Technology Podcast. Today's guest is Travis Schachtner, author, innovator, and challenger of leadership norms, whose work on employment ethics is reshaping how we view responsibility, respect, and true partnership at work. Travis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah, brother. Time to get into this. To get started, if you could, the audience kind of go a little bit through your journey, like what made you who you are today and what you're doing today to help other people and their businesses.
I have a very broad history.
You got time.
From being a lifeguard and a farmhand when I was in high school. I was in the Navy as I worked as a sonar technician, and I was constantly dealing with people and professionally. So even after the military, got my education, but then I was in field service. So I was going to job sites to figure out specific problems with machines. And that the number one catch has always been like people overthinking problems and coming down to like just breaking it down. And we spend a lot of time talking really highly about things, but because we spend so much time talking about these high things, the basics are forgotten. And what got me to where I'm at now is that one of those basics is like just work to contract. Like, you're hiring me to do a job. That's it. Like, let me do my job and then I'll walk away and the job's done. That's the amount of care that the employer should have. As long as the job is done, like, that was it. And all these other things that people keep talking about, they're like, yes, it's important to like your work, like you want to do a job that you want to be invested in, a career that you can care about. But that is the majority of people that work aren't working in a field where that's where they see their future. They're working so that they can make ends meet, so they can meet up with their buddies and go do something else, or hang out with their kids and help their daughters with math. They're not working because that's where they see their lives. They see themselves better in other parts of their lives. And that's where after doing that for a long time and then listening, when I got hired as a instructor at St. Paul College, the first time we had employers come in to brag about their business, listening to millennials just destroy these people. Like, I felt bad for them, but they were asking very straightforward, very honest questions that I would not consider out of the ordinary. But it made me start thinking about how much, as an elder millennial, I'm technically a zennial. So as someone between the two generations, like, how much did I allow the discussion go really one way? We talk about work ethic and all this stuff, but how often do we really talk about holding employers accountable so I can go home and hang out with my daughter or hang out with my son? And employers will often talk about how we're just a family, and all I can think is, I have one. I don't want to be, you are not my family. I have one, so I don't need to be a part of this family. I'm just here to collect the paycheck so I can go home and be with my actual family. So,
Damn.
there was a lot that got me here. A lot of thinking that got me here. And those younger people bringing up, like, one of the big questions that they asked was, one of the first questions they asked was, this company was in talking about this stuff, and they were like, hey, you bragged about your company making like $500 million last year, and you guys made corrugated boxes. Okay. Is your building air conditioned during the summer? No. Well, why not? You said employee safety is number one. If the building's not air conditioned, what happens on those super hot days during the summer? Are you giving us time off? No. Well, then employee safety isn't number one. Employee comfort isn't a concern of yours because you made 500 or $500 million last year and you aren't willing to invest in air conditioning for your building. And like that was the catalyst of I really need to rethink about how I was doing stuff. And then yeah.
Dude, I love that. So much to unpack there. And I've experienced a lot of those things myself too. Like companies not caring, but they make so much money. Why can't they invest it back into the employees and their systems and processes and just give back? And then you spoke earlier about it's a family. And I find that's some of the most toxic environments I've ever been part of in my life. You know,
Yep.
like they
Yeah.
say one thing, do one thing, and treat you a different way.
Yeah. And it's the catch to a lot of the mentality of the stuff that we talk about. It's white collar focused. Like,
It is.
and if you're working blue collar, you're not on the list of things to worry about. So it's the white. This is a career that you can do forever, and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, no, no. The vast majority of businesses depend on blue collar work, which is forgotten about. You're not on the list of concerns because, again, I know my office is air conditioned, but my blue collar people who are building the stuff are not.
It's so strange. I wonder why do you think that is? Why do you think that focus is so on them, even though the blue collar is the backbone of every business that actually helps that business move forward?
So my theory behind that
Yeah.
is that prior to, we'll say the last 20 years, it has been a lot of our businesses focused on like business loyalty and stuff like that amongst the blue collar, but the white collar were allowed to like move around. So one of the things you can't have an office where everybody's wearing suits and have it and not have it air conditioned because that's all projecting image, right? And if I'm working as a manager and it's really hard for me to move up inside my company, it was accepted that I go someplace else for a job. I'm working at this company A. I'm a manager. I want to move up to vice president or whatever. And the people above me aren't moving. I'll just go to another company. But the blue collar workers, it was expected that they were loyal, and that's one of the things I talk about in the book is they want that commitment from the blue collar, but they don't
Delusional.
demand that commitment of themselves, and they don't reward it as much.
Uh-uh.
So they take advantage of it, and over the last 20 years, you see a really hard pivot where finally the blue collar people learned that lesson. Like, wait, if I want more money, if I want more responsibility, if I want to make a career move, staying in this company isn't going to get it for me. So I have to move someplace else. And that the white collar workers, the managers and all that stuff, they're like, wait, we no, you can't. We can do that. You can't do that. So it's
Why
really
not?
slowly they're starting to realize that, oh, we were doing this stuff and really ignoring the demands of the blue collar workers, the backbone that you said. We were ignoring their demands and needs at the expense of us being able to do it.
Man, I feel that because when I was younger, I did a lot of blue collar jobs. I worked in warehouses. I knew
Mhm,
friends that did like dock work and stuff, or worked on the where the shipping things come in, and like it's just there's a different mentality,
mhm,
and it's weird because as a company, you should be taking care and listening to all your employees. Doesn't matter if they're blue collar or white collar; they're still human beings at the end of the day. They're the ones putting the money in your pocket. They're the ones doing the work. They should be air conditioners in warehouses. I have never understand why not. They have the excuse, "Oh, it's too expensive." If you're making good money, you can make that warehouse where it can keep the air in somehow, too.
yeah.
There's
Yeah,
things
no,
you can do.
it's pure profit driven. Like if you don't need to do it, like if you put in an air conditioner, that's going to up the cost of electricity. We don't like as long like that's fine. Like okay, but then they're
You made
cutting into profit.
$1 billion last year.
Yep,
Hello?
yep. So that is where a lot of that frustration lies, and for the especially for the last 30 some years, it's been how far can we keep pushing this until the workforce breaks. And it wasn't that what has happened is that it isn't that the workforce, the current workforce broke. It's the new generation of workforce isn't putting up with it. And
Yeah, they're not.
that's what the real break is that the current generation, because everything is so far off, they're like, I don't need to put up with this. You can pay me whatever you want. I'm still gonna be, especially if you have to
Yeah.
have like a college education and stuff, I'm still gonna be in massive debt. So I don't I'm since you're not paying me, I'm going purely by what I feel is best for me. And there you go.
And these
It's
companies
the
got
profit drive isn't there.
have to catch up to the old
Yep.
way of doing things. It hasn't been working for a long time. Like you said, these new generations are kind of breaking that system. It's
Mhm,
like when you have a company, the same thing goes with how you lead that company. Because that
mhm.
leadership skills and the way you lead, say, peace does not work with this generation now. You can't yell at them, tell them what to do, and patronize them, expect them to do the work. You have to be of service. You have to listen to know that they're human beings. And it's definitely
Well,
changing.
one of the big things that I had a company come in talking to my students, and I couldn't stop myself from just shaking my head when he brought this up. And it was, we are market competitive with our wages.
What does that
And
mean?
as soon as he said that, I was upset. And afterward, I didn't say anything, but afterwards, he's like, "Well, why did you shake your head at that?" I'm like, "Because when growing up, my family, like generations of my family used to work for you. My dad, my grandfather, and at the time in my hometown, you were seen as the wage leader. You set the bar. So everyone who worked for you knew they were going to get a good wage. They were going to afford a house. They were going to afford all, like you were the place to work because you set the bar. But by saying you're market competitive, that means you're looking at, instead of looking at what it requires to live in the community, what you're looking at is what the other people around are paying, and you're going to pay just a little bit more. Maybe pay a little bit more. What that's what market competitive means to the new generation. If you're market competitive, you're paying just above what you really should be, what you really can get away with.
It's like a marketing
You're not
scheme.
setting me up for my lifestyle. You're setting you up for your profit margin.
Yeah, I love how you put that because it's interesting because with companies now, it used to be about the company you work for, but now that's kind of turning on to to the people who work for the companies. They have the power now. Like, do I
Mhm,
want to work here? Should I work here? No. 'Cause in actuality, these companies, people see these companies like it's a paycheck, but at the same time, these companies should be working for the people because they're providing jobs. They should also be providing more because it's a lifestyle they're providing too. I
mhm,
think that that should be in conjunction, but it's just a huge corporate disconnect from humanity and what's actually going on.
mhm.
What do you
It's
think that comes from now? And what is it that's going on now that some of these guys just aren't waking up and seeing that, even though these things are changing so fast?
it comes from the imbalance of what we're negotiating for. And what I mean by that is it comes from an imbalance between what the workforce prioritizes the most, which is time, and what the employers value the most, which is money. So they're what they're really looking for is to maximize their money, and that's it. But they have because they're making so much money now, they have the luxury of sitting on their laurels and waiting until they find the employee that's willing to take the lower wage because they have to. That's where so what it really comes down to is employers aren't valuing time that the workforce wants to invest, right? And as an employee, I want to, at a basic level, employment is a pure transactional relationship.
Yeah,
I am giving you time, and you're going to give me money, and that's where the transaction is, and I'm bringing you my skills and my labor to get you a product. That's what I'm delivering. Skills and labor for product. I invest my time by using my skills and labor to give you that product that you can sell on the market. But if you don't value my time, or you said this is how much we can make by making these widgets, right? and then you see I can meet that, well, then instead of like saying, okay, we're making enough money, well, now I'm going to increase the bar and I'm going to increase the bar, but I'm not going to increase how much money you make. I'm just increasing the bar of productivity over and over again, but you're making a fixed rate. So, and that was one of like, back to those students, that was one of the questions that they brought up was why is overtime mandatory? That's become a common thing now is overtime is never mandatory because quitting's always an option.
This is
I can just
true.
walk away.
It's a
But is
choice.
overtime mandatory? And they said yes. And they said, and the students said, why? You guys are, if that your overtime wage doesn't lose the company money. So they could pay you your normally in a blue collar job, they could probably pay you your overtime wage and you would still they would still make profit. The catch is that they would have to spend more money for things like insurance and your fringe benefits if you're working full time, right? And then that is where they would lose their money. So they're actually not paying you enough. They're not paying you the good overtime wage, so that way they can save money on those fringe benefits.
It sounds ridiculous to put into words.
Yep. But it's just they're not valuing the time of the workforce that's investing in them. They don't see your time as an investment. They only are looking at money.
I see
And
that.
that imbalance of power between the two sides of the negotiating table, that imbalance of power is where we're at.
So let me ask you something about that. Do you feel this is why a lot of places, say like Amazon, for example, started organizing or trying to get unions, and would unions protect them with this? What is that purpose of the union in that scenario?
The purpose of the union is trying to claw some of that power back,
Okay.
right? The purpose of all unions is to protect. Originally, it was protection of skilled labor. I believe one of the first ones was like a shoe union,
Right.
way
Look this
back when.
up.
But
Damn.
it's the protection of unions is to protect is the protection of skill of the skills you're bringing to the table and the value of that skill. They're demanding that trade-off of time and money. Like they're trying to find a balance there. Is it always the case that unions can do that? No. Like because there's other factors that come
Look
into
at
play, but it's
Uber, for example. They tried that. That wasn't successful.
yeah, and it also comes to understanding of what the goals are. But it's the main goal of a union is we want to if anybody decides to work at place A, the goal of the union is to make it so that anybody working at place A should be able to afford a standard of living. Because the
Not
community as
market
a
value,
whole,
standard of living. I like that.
yep, the community as a whole isn't working to make sure that the businesses are doing it. So they're depending on the workforce to make that demand. And those are two different distinctions.
I like how you distinguish that. It's very important, especially since things are changing so much with these companies. And I feel like there's gonna be an inflection point where we're gonna have to figure out as human beings what power we have and how we can make our money, maybe not necessarily working for these companies, but outside of these companies. And do we start our own businesses? We create our own company? What do we do here?
Well, I think that my teacher when I was going for my doctorate, he was from Europe, and he was he was really excited about the how work is viewed in Europe versus how it's viewed in the United States, and
Ooh,
he was very much like in Europe. It's a very company mentality. Like there's a lot of the stuff that's going on is legacy, right? These are industries that have been established for a very long time, and there's a balancing act there. In the United States, it's entrepreneurship. The goal is you own your own thing and you do
yeah,
your own thing, you know? But the catch is like doesn't matter with that is that it doesn't matter how we really do that if we're not the primary way for the money to move around is in the United States is through employment. So if I want to, I had used to have my own business, but the catch was it was a niche hobby business. But what eventually happened was my clientele, due to the inflation and everything, they just weren't able to afford my product. You know, it wasn't that our product had gone up; it's the cost of food. the cost of gas, the cost of their apartments and housing. Everything else had gone up, and we fought like hell to keep our costs down because we understood we were in a niche area. And then our rent was going up, and our like
They
we
price you out.
yeah, they just price you out, and it's like, and that's where like as an entrepreneur, that's where a frustration lies with me, is because I care about the community that I am investing my time and effort in, whereas multinational corporations can't care.
They
It's just
they're
too much for them to
disconnected.
go down to that macro level and go, here's this little rinky dink town, rural town in the middle of nowhere. We really care about that place. We want to make sure. It's like, no, 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 no. In all actuality, that's not your responsibility to care about that tiny town in the rural community. It's the responsibility of the community members to care about that town. And so what all we're asking for is that the workforce that you hire, you multinational corporation, the money that they make is able to help maintain the support of the town. They to help maintain that community.
So there's a give and take there.
Yep.
Yeah. I like how you put that. I feel there's a lot of misconceptions sometimes, people not understanding what the um that's off my train of thought. What the responsibility of the business is, the responsibility of the employee is. I feel
Mhm.
like sometimes employees rely so much and they just don't understand why things are the way they are or how business works exactly. They just get a paycheck and that's it. But if you actually try to understand what business really is, it really helps you understand what power you have.
It's the we have lost sight of the responsibility that businesses have to the community that they are
Yeah,
hiring from.
there we go.
And that's like I said, that's part of what I cover in the book is there are four aspects to what I call employment ethics.
Yeah.
If an employer, based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are four things that all employers should be work towards making sure that their employees meet. It's a safe and secure workspace, a responsible impact on the surrounding environment, right? Because you don't want to you want to make sure that you're not poisoning your future workforce. A community supporting wage, not a living wage, but one that can actually be taxable, that can actually support the community and help it thrive. And also, my favorite one is an accountable professional relationship. We're not friends. We're not family. You're my boss. I'm an employee. Tell me what to do. I do it. We walk away. Like we have to have a baseline of I don't want any more friends. I'm an introvert.
What?
I
No
have enough
way.
friends. I have enough friends. I just want you to tell me what to do, and then I will go do the thing and come back and say it's done. And then
Simple enough.
once we like, if I've been working for you a long time, that established relationship of friendship and everything else, we need to have that baseline understanding so we can build that friendship relationship. Because the
Oh,
person that's hiring me that's saying they want to be my friend is probably not the same person that's going to be managing me when I'm doing my job.
they're gonna be the one that's gonna be firing you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Man, I actually love that accountable relationship. I like to break down those four pillars a little bit, but touch on the accountable relationship one. I feel that one is kind of fundamental and it's kind of far from what we understand that relationship should actually be between employee and employer. So I'd love if you could break that down a little more.
So the catch with all four relationships is that they're already parts of of our government. Like the accountable relationship is EEOC. OSHA is the safe and secure workspace. Like all of them are already existing accountability parts
I
in our
did not
government.
know that.
But the main thing with that accountable professional relationship is that it oftentimes, especially amongst blue collar workers, you're going to be interviewed by white collar workers. You're going to have white collar workers bragging about you, but the person that's directly above you in management is probably another blue collar worker. So have it saying, here's the guidelines for what we want. Here's the expectations for what we want from the blue collar manager to the blue collar workers, and just saying, this is what we're looking for. This is a consistent bar, because that's where the key to accountability is is the accountable part, but also consistency. If something comes up, we address it consistently.
Humans
If
consistent.
Well, that's there as long as that minimum bar is consistent, everything else is fine. But that minimum like the minimum bar can be is what is important to that consistency, right? If something happens and me and my friend are working and they do something really dumb that's fireable, right? I should be willing and I should feel safe to really go after, like, dude, like, I've been consistent with everyone. I have to be consistent with you. You put me in this situation and it's not going to cost both of us,
The-
right? That's if you're in a management position, that's the responsibility you take on. But the catch is instead of promoting people that are willing to hold that consistent bar, a lot of times it's the people who have the most connections, the people who are the most knowledgeable but can't get along with anybody. Right? You're getting people that aren't willing to hold that bar. What instead they'll I'm going to take on the entire workload. So that way my everyone below me looks good, or I'm going to bring up the person that's friends with everybody and agree with everything that I say. And you're not look and so they're not looking for that. This is the leader that is consistent. Everybody they hold that bar for not only themselves but for others, and everybody they don't need to be liked, but everybody respects that person and he respects everybody else or she. But that two-way street of respect is in that community. But it requires time and effort to find those people.
I wanted to touch on the leader consistency part you were talking about. So I'm trying to figure out, because like you said, you always have a white collar who is looking down the blue collar, and you have blue collar manager. What can a company do to make sure that consistency, those mission driven values and stuff stay down the line? I know you mentioned like hiring the right people, but sometimes companies get so big, they kind of get away from their mission, their consistency. They forget who they are or why they're there, the job they're doing.
Well,
I mean,
like no, I understand. Like
okay.
the problem is that those models exist.
Okay.
We already have like you have Arizona Tea, you have Costco, you have like there are these companies that hold themselves to a high
True.
standard. Waffle House is another example.
Yeah.
They hold themselves internally from the very top. They hold themselves to a high standard, and they make sure that at every level that standard is maintained.
So it
But the catch is that in order to do that, you need to have people that are buying into that consistency at every level. It takes time and it takes money. And one of the big budgets and as a trainer, as an educator, one of the biggest budgets that was cut outside of maintenance of the facilities and everything, one of the other biggest budgets that was cut is just training. They don't do like this is what we like
that is
this is
so
what we want. They'll
true.
they'll put out the message, but they won't invest in that regular training. Instead, what and like them formally doing it. Um, instead, it's we'll give you money so you can invest in the training. Well, yeah, but how do you know that the training you want is in
Yeah,
alignment
I
with
did a
your
training ball, I'm
mission,
good.
vision, value?
It's
Yep.
done.
Yeah, I did my professional development. What was it in? Underwater basket weaving. Oh,
Cool,
we can write
got
down
it.
that you did underwater basket
I got a
weaving.
degree in chocolate, I'm good.
Yep. So it's like that's the problem when you have when I think personally I think it's the problem that stems from companies buying out companies, and then
Yeah.
that profit motive, it becomes their focus. And what happens is by constantly focusing on that profit motive and constantly buying up companies and selling them, what happens is the people that are truly motivated will move on. The people that are undervalued will move on, but the people that are left in the company are what I would label the survivors that aren't willing to move on. So then everything within that company through the buyouts becomes internally focused down to just trying to stay here just to keep my job.
So what
So
what
everyone
culture?
becomes that focus.
What
And
culture?
that's
What training?
yep, well that becomes the culture.
Yeah.
The pure culture is to survive the next buyout.
I've lived in so many of those, and it's just so treacherous. No one even knows why they're there anymore, why they're doing what they're doing. Like you said earlier in the conversation, they're just collecting a paycheck. They're the seat warmer. It's so
So and
depressing.
it's just that's the culture we have now. So if some of these companies, like, what's the frustrating one I have right now is I'm a big fan of like like DC Comics and the movies that came out, but they just got bought out, and now they're going to be there's a promotion that
Who
they're putting
bought
out
them?
that there's going to be
Disney?
huh
I'm like, who bought
Netflix.
them? Disney?
Well, Warner Brothers bought another company that bought out by another company, and now next year the owner of
So
or the
Disney.
head of Warner Brothers, no, they're saying Netflix is going to buy them.
Hmm.
And they're like, we want to be sold by we want to be sold by Christmas next year. Well, what kind of messaging does that tell your workforce when you're like, yeah, we're selling you again? Like, we just got stable. We're just starting to put out good stuff.
It's all the
So,
profit over understanding what it's doing to the culture and the people.
and then they wonder why the culture is being corrupted and all this stuff.
Top down, I always say, top down. That's why I've always been a very strange or with companies when investment firms come in and buy them. Because that pretty much destroyed everything we've talked about today. That company becomes just a profit machine, period. That's it. I find that so horrible.
Yeah, and it's like the fact that you're being bought out by an investment system by investors, regardless of what it is.
I don't think they're human half the time,
Well, they're probably less and less human because of the AI that they're using to buy this, buy that.
right?
The catch is the a lot of businesses that sell like you can't fault a business for selling to like, hey, you want to buy my bit? Okay. When
Yeah.
why is it if I'm bought in and built this up and then I sell to you, like
Not my problem anymore
why don't you
mentality.
it's not my problem anymore, but why are you undermining it purely for profit? Like I built this success and you could buy it and just maintain the success. Like that's my frustration with it now is a lot of these companies, the original owners are watching their vision of what they thought as success be completely undermined. Their legacy being
But they're
utterly destroyed.
letting it
And they're
too.
like, yep, and they're like, I sold because I thought you guys I was making a buck, but I thought you guys would at least like try to maintain it, and you guys just completely gutted what I built. I spent my life building.
I mean, when you
And
do
it's just
research, when you see this happens everywhere, when you be like,
well, I think that's what's happening more and more is you're seeing well, the monopolization of a lot of it, but a lot of the places you're seeing fewer and fewer of these bigger sales because a lot of these legacy companies are like, my family has a lot on the line on this, and if you gut it, you're ruining everything my
I think
family
someone
invested.
bigger coming in and buying Apple. Like, oh yeah, sure, we're gonna take care of it. And Apple has its own ecosystem of its own. So that someone else is not gonna be able to maintain that properly the way they have. Man. And it all comes back down to I always try and tell people is remembering the journey of being a human being because if you're more human, if you remember our humanity more, we know what it's like to be that person next to us, that person down the street from us, that we're all connected as humans. So I feel that we would make these decisions differently. We'd consider them more than just the profit part, but the lives we're affecting, the people, the communities, and all that connectivity there. We'd see the bigger picture. That's just I feel. I mean, I'm just a
Yeah.
guy on the internet. Well, Travis, it's been amazing talking with you today. I really appreciate you coming on here. I'd love to have you back on here too.
Yeah, no problem. This has been fun.
Hell yeah, brother. Before we go, I'd love to any last words you'd like to leave the audience with, and then where they can reach out to you and find your book as well.
My book, Employment Ethics, Redefining the Employee-Employer Relationship. It's on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble and all the places. I also have a website, FTS Leaders, where it is the letters FTS and then leaders.com, where I lay out a lot of this stuff, and it has a link to my book and contact information. So, yeah, those are the big ones.
Also, I'll put it down in the show notes and I'll go in our newsletter so people can find it easier. And before we go, I have one last question for you that actually goes quite well with this conversation. What does it mean to you to be a human being?
I'm someone who believes that being a human being is being defined by your actions and not your words. So we spend, like you said, part of our one of the key components is compassion. One of the just valuing each other's lives, valuing and not, I think with that value, people need to get over the judgment. But we just, at a basic level, we're valuing each other's lives. We value each other's work. We value I One of the things that really frustrates me is when people are talking about like the value of work, but then you'll bring up, what about somebody who's sweeps the floor? Oh, they shouldn't make that much money. It's an entry job, but it's work. If you're working a cash register at a fast food restaurant, that's work, right? So just value each other's time, value each other's work. And when we start valuing each other and bringing that compassion first, that's the key to humanity. If we want to see real success amongst humanity, it comes from valuing each other and valuing our lives.
I love that. I love how you brought up. So I always talk about, doesn't matter if you're a janitor, receptionist, you work at McDonald's, we're all human beings. We're doing
Mhm.
honest work. We're doing what we can and need to so we can support whatever our families and whatnot, you know? I feel like in the American culture, it's too much of either you have to have a corporate job or make like $100,000 a year, or you're not valued enough, or I can't date you, or I can't be friends with you. It's a weird connotation we have here.
Well, I just the value the value of a title often becomes higher than the value of the actual work too, because
Yeah. Ooh,
there are blue collar jobs where you'll make six figures, but as soon as you say the title, people are like, oh
you're the oil rig rigger? Oh god, geez.
yeah,
What?
you help you do you pick up trash. Ugh. Like, no, 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 that's actually a really solid
They're
job,
making
dude.
more
Like,
than
you
you
make
do,
good
come
money.
on. And they're
Yep.
nice people. They're humans, come on. It's interesting to leave it at this. I didn't understand that until I was working those jobs, and I went to the so, like, we were talking earlier, if you're a corporate person and you've never had a blue collar job, you don't really understand what it is to be those workers. You don't understand what it is to be those doing those jobs. I feel you need to be able to do both to understand.
I tell people when I get like frustrations with some people, I tell them, how much would it take you to deal with you on a bad day?
Not enough.
And when you like, if you're saying minimum wage, it's like, my goal in life is to be
Mhm.
the customer that's always forgotten. Like, I want no stories around. Yeah. So that's where that the
I like
value, like
that.
the actual value of work.
I like that. I'm gonna leave this at that. I like that one. That has made me question myself here. Like, damn. Whew. Okay, hold on. I need to like take that in. I have to remember that. I need to come back to that. Not having a bad day or treating someone badly. How much do I have to pay myself? Well, Travis, I appreciate you coming on here. It's been a real great time having. I'd love to have you back on to talk more about your book and stuff as well.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.